Hi there, Jasmine here. You want to move an object from point A to point B in Unity smoothly? This tutorial is for you. Not only are we going to complete this task, we're going to make a script for you that will allow you to move any of your objects in Unity this way. Also, we'll have a bit of fun with the script, have many objects moving at once. And at the end of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how I used the similar style of script to create a cinematic advertisement for my new game. Let's get started. We have our new project all set up here. It's completely blank. We've got a sample scene, just like any new project starts with. Um, what I'm going to do for this demonstration is just to use one of the assets that I've previously purchased. Just instead of using a flat plane to demonstrate this, let's get something that would look more like a game. Okay, so I'm going to use this Village Interiors kit that I have purchased a while ago. For ease here, I'll just import everything. Okay, when that's done importing, we can close the package manager. So this is a scene we're just going to build our move script into. If we look here, we've got a room. Let's just build around this room. The first thing that we should notice here is if we actually click the game tab, we don't have a camera. So let's add a camera here. So we want to right click in the hierarchy and hit add camera. I'm just going to call it the main camera. And location wise, I'm just going to move it over into the room that we're in here. So we'll just move it up a little bit, and then we can rotate it, just get a good view of the room with the rotate tool, or we can just do a rotation here. Let's go 225. And if we hit a play button, we're going to get a decent view of the room here. So the whole point of this demo now is to move objects. So let's create an object that we're going to move. So let's create a 3D object in this, just make a cube. We're going to name this as movable object. We'll bring it into this room as well. Let's create a position where we want to move this to. So again, we'll create another object. This time we're going to create one empty, and we're just going to go position, move position. Right. Empty objects don't show up obviously as visible in any of these scenes. So what you can do is use this tool up here to give it a star or just a mark so that you can actually see when you're editing where these things are. So let's just put it over here. So our goal right now is to move this cube to this position here. We need to do this using a script. So we have to create that. Generally, it's best practice in your assets to create a new folder called scripts. And in that scripts folder, we will create a new C# script called move controller. Unity will auto-generate the start and update function as we can see on the right. I use Visual Studio as my IDE. Basically use the editor that you feel most comfortable with. As I said before, you can see the void update and the void start functions. For the purposes of this script, we're not going to use the void starts at this moment, so we're going to remove it. I also don't think that these particular comments are very useful, so I always remove those. Visual Studio is also telling me that I'm not using the system collections or the system collections generic right now, so I'm going to remove those. And we've got a very basic script here. One note that other tutorials that I've seen talk about at this point is brackets. I prefer my brackets this way. Some people prefer their brackets this way. Ultimately, you can choose, sorry, some people prefer it this way. Ultimately, you can choose what you prefer. As long as you can stick consistent with your coding style from class to class, file to file, project to project, then you'll be fine. So the first thing that we need in our move controller is we need the position that we're moving our cube to. Well, even before that, we need to have this script attached to our object that we want to move. So we go to our movable object and we add a component. And if you type in move here, Unity will find the move controller added in there, and we have our script. And as I said, we need to be able to access the point that we want to move to. And there are two ways to do this. We need to pass that point back to our code. So the first one is using the serialize field, private, and this is a game object. And we're going to call it location to move. And if we save it, and Unity will compile this code change, and when that's done, and we go back into the editor, we'll see that there is a spot with location to move for our game object. The second way to do this is to declare a public variable, game object, and it's suggesting move target. I'll just use that for now because I'm not going to use this. Once you've done that and Unity compiles, and we look, we have both of these here available to us to pass an object into the code for us. The difference between the two is, as you can see it, one is private, one is public. In order to use without the serialized field, you need to declare a public game. I started my career as a coder before getting into Unity, so having a public variable declared when you don't need it to be usable by other classes in your project feels wrong to me. Therefore, I use the serialized private game object location to move. However, you will see a lot of tutorials out there that use the public game object move target. Often their arguments are about that the code that you're using now isn't ever going to be shared between projects, so the risk of having a problem based on it being exposed is small. Ultimately, this is another thing that's up to you. I prefer using the serialized field. It feels proper to me, but both of these methods work. I'm going to remove that one for now. We've got our location to move. Unity will compile once more. And we've got it there. So we get this position into our code by dragging and dropping it into this variable and saving it. If we go back to our script now, we are going to use the update function. Update, as a reminder, runs every frame of the game. And so we're going to move this cube a little bit each frame, and that's how we get the smooth movement. So the first thing we need to do is test to make sure that we've actually set that object. So if location is equal to null, and I'm going to use not equal, no, that's fine. If location is equal to null, we'll return. Okay, the second thing, if it's not null, we need to test for is whether or not we still need to move it. So we need to determine, is the distance between the two objects still a significant amount away? We do that with the vector3 distance function. So we say if the vector3.distance, the first parameter of this is one of the vector3 positions. So we'll go location to move dot transform dot position. And then the second one is the position of the object that our script's connected to. So we go transform dot position. Okay, so that will calculate a distance. If this is greater than, and I'm going to use 0.1f, then we'll do this. So we're using 0.1f, f stands for float. Basically, ideally, we would like to see is the distance equal to 0 between the two positions. and if not, we're stop moving. In this case, we're using 0.1 float just because to get exactly 0 in a comparison like this is pretty much impossible. So we use a sufficiently small space. So if this is greater than 0.1, then we need to move the object, and we do so by setting the new object, the current object, the transform.position, equal to our vector3 dot move towards function. The current position is the transform.position. So the transform is referring to the current object that the script is attached to, so the cube. Current transform.position. Where are we going? We're going to the location to move dot transform dot position and the max delta distance. So this is the distance that we want to move the cube in this particular frame. In order to do this, we need to declare a speed, and we're going to use 1.0 f, again float for that. And we want to adjust that speed based on how much time has passed in between frames, and that is the time.delta time function. If we hover over time.delta time, it says that this is the interval in seconds from the last frame to the current one. So if we use this, then each frame, it will multiply by the speed that we set of 1.0 f and move just a fraction of that each frame. So it'll look smooth to our eyes. We're going to save this. If we go back into Unity, assuming that the script compiles, and if we now play this, run the game, we'll see the cube move towards that position. Okay, great. There's goal number 1, moving an object smoothly from one position to another. What's the next thing that we might want to do? And that might be, well, what if we want to move it back to where it was? I'm going to duplicate the move position. I'm going to call it original position. And for the purpose of this, I'm going to move it using the exact position of the cube. There are other ways to do this in script. We could at the start function store the starting position in a variable. It would absolutely work. It would limit the script. The idea with the script as we're writing it now is that we could reuse this in numerous places for numerous move positions and for any object. So with me doing this here, we've now got a second position exactly where the cube started. We've got 2 positions, so we need to then send the second position into the script as well. We're going to do that with an array. So it's now a game object array. We'll call it locations to move to make it make sense. We are still going to check for null here. Okay, so this obviously has to change a little bit. We're going to need to keep track of where we are in our array. So we're going to create a private int current location. We set it at 0 to start. We are now going to change this test. Instead of testing to see if we need to move towards the spot, we're going to test to see if we have arrived at the spot. So it's the same distance function. If vector3 dot distance, and the same one, we want the location to move at the current location and the transform dot position. If it's less than our 0.1f, then we are going to go current location plus plus. So what is this is complaining about our locations to move is that I'm not specifying a vector. I forgot to put our transform dot position here. As we are getting closer to our position, once it gets close to the position or exactly on the position, we are going to update our current location. So then our script will move to the next position. So we've got to protect ourselves from getting outside the array bounds. So we're going to test if our current location is greater than or equal to our locations to move.length, then current location will be equal to 0. So we don't need this test now. And we will now remove a bunch of the white space. And we've got an error here because we are not referencing the array. We're still on the old variable, current location. Okay, so we've now got, we need the locations to move. Okay, let's just review the script. If this variable is null, we will return. If the distance to of the moving object is basically on our position, then we are going to increment our current location so that we are now looking at the next object in the array. If the current location is greater than the array length, then we're going to restart to 0. So this is going to achieve that back and forth movement that we were talking about. Then we actually do the movement and we move towards, so we move our cube towards the location that we want, and we're still using the delta time times the speed. We go to our movable object, our cube, and we go to our controller. Our locations to move array is empty. So we're going to want to add 2 of these here. Using the plus sign, minus sign, we can adjust that. We use our move position to go into the first one, and our original position to go to the second one. Once we save this now, and we hit run, we now have our box going to position 1, and then back to original position, and then back. So we've got that back and forth movement that, again, is useful in certain types of games. Now, one thing that we're going to do refactor-wise before we continue, we go back here. I don't like having constants in code like this. What if we want to make these speeds faster or slower? If your script starts getting into the 100, 200 lines of code, it might be hard to find that. So we're going to move this up into the top here, private float movement speed. I'm going to use the same 1.0. So there's 1, and we'll go private float minimum object distance is equal to 0.1f. And we'll use that here. This now is saying I could make it a read-only field, which would make, again, just a little more correct. We go back into Unity. One of the things when I do a refactor, you always just run the game to make sure that your changes are still okay. And we should still see the same thing. All right. The beautiful thing about this script now, as it is here, is that we can add as many of these positions to this array as we want. So let's do that. All right, we're going to take the move position that we've got here and duplicate it. Let's just duplicate it a few times, actually. Move position 3. And move position 4. And we still have our original position. If we go back to the movable object, our cube, we can add a number more of these into the array. drop our new positions in. There's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. Now we can just move them around. So let's change position 2 to be up on top of these stairs. So maybe there. Let's put position 3 like up, even further up the stairs. Let's move this around so we can see it a bit better. So yeah, like maybe, oops, this one up here, like so. Just close this again. All right, and then position 4, let's go and put in this doorway here. So I'll go like this and like that. Okay, so let's save this. And again, we're now adding these 3 extra positions to this cube, and without changing any code, we now get the box going to position 1 up to position 2 and so forth. Number 3, number 4 down. And of course, this is a bit odd. It's going through other objects, so maybe not quite as what we want, but you can see that here. We can start seeing the power of the script. Okay, let's stop it now. Now, the next thing is we've talked about wanting to apply it to multiple objects. And this is actually extremely simple as well. Let's just pick an object, say this basket here. Let's go and cut this out of the demo scene stuff, pop it in here. Oops. And let's rename this basket. All right, this basket, and just something that I will note here, this is static, which means no movement will be applied to it if we don't uncheck that. So we'll just do that quickly. So the next thing then is we need to, just like we did with our cube, we need to add our move control script. So we go into the inspector, add a component to our basket, and it's our move controller. We get the same thing here with our list. So let's add the same 5 items. So move position 1, 2, etc. Okay, and save it. Okay, so if we run the game now, we'll see that both the cube and the basket will move through the different various points together at the same speed. Now, if we're doing this for real, we probably wouldn't want the same speed. We would want to be able to control the speed depending on the object. So let's make that change now. We go back into our script. So here is the reason that those are moving at the same speed. It's defined here. So we want to move this variable into the editor, into the Unity editor. So we'll create another serialized field and make it private. This will be a float just like it was. And we'll call it movement speed. We're going to set a default value of 1 here. Anytime you set a default value, it'll pass it into the editor and then you can override it. This, of course, means that we do not need this movement speed. And we can move this here into here, save it. Okay, let's go back to the editor. Once it finishes compiling, we'll have a new variable on the right here called movement speed. And so if we go to the cube, we'll keep it as our 1 movement speed. And on the basket, let's push that up to 5 and we'll save it. So now if we start, we will see that the basket flies much faster than the cube now. All right, so both those objects moving all on the same script. Okay, our script is moving two objects at once at different speeds. The point with this now is that this script can move as many objects as we want. So let's just play around with that a bit. What I'm going to do is create a new folder in the assets folder called prefabs. And in that folder, I'm going to drag our basket. Okay, and for those who don't know, a prefab is an object that can be replicated over and over again, and it'll keep all of the same settings that you've already added to it. In this case, as you can see on the right, it's got the remove controller script. So I'm going to add a bunch of these here. There's 2 baskets, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then because these were created that way, our elements are blank. So, I'm just going to reuse some of these. Like for example, for the second one, let's go backwards. And make it speed 10. Next one, let's remove 2 points. Sorry, I guess I removed 3 there. And we'll just pick a couple at random here and make it speed 2. And then this one, let's pick 3 points. Make the speed 0.5. On the next one, I'm going to remove 1. You can, because of the way this is set up, you can reuse positions. So let's use the position twice. And we'll make this one 7. And then in the last one here, we'll just remove a few again and just put some in here. Now, as you can see, this is kind of starting to get fun. This is just going to be a bit of chaos, but let's try it out. And you can see all the baskets flying around, almost randomly, I suppose. Different speeds. So this is all one script. And again, the nice thing about the script, small, very little to it, and it's controlling all of this for us. Okay, the last thing to tackle in this tutorial is, as I alluded at the beginning, how can I use a script to help me with a cinematic advertisement? I have just recently done it with my new game that I'm building. It's yet to be titled. I'll link the YouTube video to the ad that I made that uses a script very much like this. And it's very simple. Just like we are moving baskets with this script, we can also move the camera with the script. So if we go into the main camera, we add a component, we use our move controller, we get the same array, we get the same movement speed. And if we go here and add our options and we move all of our positions, so you can see on the camera we've got the 5 positions. I'm just going to change the movement speed to 1.5 so that we're not the same speed as the cube. And when we run the game now, not only will all of the baskets and the cube be moving around the scene, but so will the camera. And as seen here, you can see that this is, something very close to what a cinematic could be. Obviously, you'd want some rotation. Rotation's not part of this tutorial. However, stay tuned. I'll be making a tutorial on some rotation on some of these things. Additionally, in the scene that I did some speed up and slow down around the positions just to try and get some smoothness in there, which I'll show you right now. So here it is. This is the new game I'm working on, yet to be titled. Title should be coming soon. And here's the cinematic I've created for kind of a teaser. And as mentioned, it's got some rotation and some speeding up and slowing down that's not included in this tutorial, but otherwise very similar, just waypoints that the camera is moving to capture this type of scene. I'll include a link in the description to the teaser advertisement. I felt it was very effective, and all with a very simple script that moves an object from waypoint to waypoint to waypoint. Pretty effective. Thanks for watching and sticking with it. Well done. Hopefully you can use your script in your game real soon. Please subscribe to the channel. I've got new tutorials coming out soon on object rotation and how to create your own first-person controller. Thanks. Chat soon.